Hey everyone, good morning and welcome to my morning run, which right now is a morning walk since I wanted to record a little intro and talk with you guys about this really great conversation that I had over the weekend with Esmeralda Ramirez. She's a senior VFX coordinator over at Warner Brothers. She was so gracious to offer her time on the weekend to chat with me, and she just has such a positive voice. She was on. It really rose to the top like during LinkedIn during the strikes. She was on there just posting really supportive messages to the community, but which was very needed at the time. But also putting those words into action and offering mentorship and one-on-one support with artists, organizing meetups for LA VFX personnel, gathering resumes for when people started to hire again. And it was just it was really wonderful to see. It was very much in line with the mission that we have over at VFXTalk, just to help the community. So I reached out, and she was gracious enough to offer her very precious free time, which she's in production right now. So free time is very valuable, and I appreciate her sacrificing some of it to come on to tell her story, offer her advice on some topics, offer her perspective, and it was just a great conversation. It's one of those I'm really enjoying reaching out and talking with people in the industry, and it was great. So enough blabbing. I got to get back to running before it gets too hot. It's Texas, so you gotta start early, otherwise you're gonna be boiling. So, but you all need to go watch this really great conversation I had with Esmeralda. So, without further ado, hope you enjoy it. And this is episode 4. See you guys. Did it work? Shall I get it? Oh no! Hold on. I'm muted, of course. See, this is what I get for letting my kid use my computer while I'm not. He's muting things, he's moving things around. It's how it goes.
All good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly.
Perfect.
I'm so excited. We finally got this together. I appreciate you coming on a Sunday too, and rescheduling a couple of times. Like this is a process, and I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Well, I really just wanted to have you on. Like we've been doing these interviews with different people throughout like the industry. And the main thing is like I think as like visual effects, we're usually pretty hidden. We're usually like very comfortable behind the scenes. At least I am. I don't, maybe I'm projecting, but I like to
100% agree.
Yeah, okay, cool. But I find like especially like with the no CGI movement that we've been seeing, I want to take some time to highlight all the people behind the scenes that make all this like incredible stuff, and especially the positive people. Like you've been, your posts on LinkedIn are always very supportive of the community and very, like all the good vibes. So I wanted to reach out, learn all about you, learn about your career, your everything. Just want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me.
Of course, it's a pleasure. Oh man, yeah. Where to begin?
Where to begin? Yeah, you've been doing this for quite a while, right?
Yes, since 2014. Started with a dream at 5, so it's been quite the journey.
Oh man, they got you early.
Star Wars.
That's how it goes. Mine was Jurassic Park. It's never look back.
I love that.
Yeah, so tell me all about you.
Yeah, I mean, when I was 5, I just saw Star Wars: A New Hope and was like, oh my gosh, what are those? Looking at the blasters and lightsabers and things like that. And as a kid, you're like, I don't know what this is, but I want to do it. It's cool. And of course, when the credits started rolling, I was watching it with a family member, and I was like, what are these names? Had no idea what the heck credits were at the time. And they were like, oh, those are all the people that worked on the movie. And I was like, that's a lot of names. How do I get to do that?
Yeah.
And didn't have any idea what VFX was or anything about movies or filmmaking. And so when I was young, I was like, I love drawing. To this day I still do it, traditionally and digitally, but it's like I love drawing. I wanted to be like an artist of some sort, work on movies in some way.
Yeah.
And so at that age, I dedicated my time to just kind of doing traditional artwork with like pencil paper, eventually transitioning to the digital realm. I went to college trying to get ahead of like the tech with 3D and learning Maya and things like that. So it's like I had the intention of developing those skills as we're kind of moving along and advancing with technology. And like that 2D animation was kind of starting to be put in the back burner
Yeah.
and almost like a having that ability to enjoy art as a side kind of a hobby, and then just really focusing and honing in on my production skills and organizational skills have I've found has been very like mentally, I guess, stimulating in a way, which keeps me on my toes. I love challenges. I can get very I guess in a way bored if things are very the same every single day.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, it's exciting. And, after 10 years, I still love it to this day. I love working with all these different artists and just creative people and collaborating on these really great films. So it's still something near and dear to me, which is why I've kind of started to try to help the community in a way to just help the people that helped me have that dream at 5 years old, and
Yeah.
just support them as best I can, because truly they're the talented ones, and just everyone deserves so much for all
Yeah.
of their contributions.
Yeah, that's so important too. We've touched on that a lot with some of these other interviews. The mentorship aspect of the visual effects world is, I think, very special and unique to us. We're all kind of like standing on the shoulders of everybody that's come before us, you know.
Yeah.
And I love that you're giving back to the community. And I mean, and some of your credits too. I have them like right up here. I first one that popped up to me, Ad Astra. I love Ad Astra. That's that is one of my favorites. Maleficent. My goodness, yeah. There's Avatar, the last Avatar, Ant Man. You've had quite like a nice track record. Have Did you grow up in Los Angeles, or were you from a different part of the world or country?
I mean, I would say California,
Yeah,
mostly like Inland Empire is really where I was born in Los Angeles, but we moved around a lot growing up. Like Baldwin Park area, eventually Fontana,
yeah,
San Diego for a bit when I first started my career. That's where I kind of was for a bit. And then when that company kind of moved to a different country, we ended up moving to Los Angeles to kind of pursue more opportunities, which ended up being really great because it's just like a big central hub for a lot of really great production companies. It's proven really helpful career wise.
for
But
sure.
yeah, it's just it's just wonderful to live here.
How has it been for the past year? So, with everybody who's watching this that's familiar with visual effects, they're very well aware of all the strikes and uh, all the union talks and all the struggles that's been going on through the past year. How have you been handling that? I hope you've been weathering weathering the storm.
I have it's one of those things where having a support system, family wise, but also within the community is really great. Like I have all of my friends tend to be within the industry, which is great because then it's like we all get it. You can
Yeah,
vent to each other, you get it, we all understand, we all have the same feelings. I was fortunate enough that when the first time it happened in 2023, the strikes, that I was actually on a project where we had completed all the actor like ADR and things like that. So we were
yeah,
able to complete that project. And then that's actually around the time when I started the VFX Networking Events group, which is, very community based, very nonprofit in a way, because we don't make any profit at all. We're just a bunch of volunteers that want to give back.
yeah,
And, LinkedIn was a very, very sad time in that time because all I was seeing was just people losing their homes and losing their jobs and their livelihoods really, really jeopardized. And so I
yeah,
was just like, I can't stand and see everyone struggling and just watching.
yeah.
And there's only so far that, I guess sending you good vibes can really get someone. So just try to be proactive about it. And I was like, you know what? Everyone talks about like, oh, it's all about who you know, right? The
Mm-hmm.
networking aspect of the visual effects. And so we were just like, okay, let's find a place where we can get a few people. Started off with maybe like 30 RSAPs at this bar in like a small little corner in the back. And it's blossomed to 120-ish people. So it's really grown
That's
and we're
amazing.
very proud of it. Yeah, it's very exciting. As the word keeps spreading, we keep growing and just really, really connecting with everyone. And that's how we kind of get a little bit more information on the state of things, which is really helpful. And just having raffles to have some sort of like a morale booster,
Yeah.
and trying to do it on a monthly basis too, to really just help people have that mental escape, because people can really go into dark places in their mind when they're struggling. And so we're trying our best to just keep people up, I guess, their spirits up in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, these are times that are hard for anybody, but I think visual effects artists too that are, I mean, we have like that unique brain, right? That's very technical, but also very artistic. So we're very sensitive, but we, so the hard times can really be very hard, and we've seen that on VFX Talk too. Just I didn't expect VFX Talk to be such a support group, like when we started it up, but it very much quickly turned into people just saying, "Oh, I'm so happy just to be able to talk to people because we got shifted remotely with COVID, and the studio environment was just not the same anymore, and then the layoffs, and then we missed that connection, like I think it's amazing that you've kind of grassroots pulled all of these people together and kept it going, like that's really incredible.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's unfortunate that we only do it locally to Los Angeles, because that is where my team is based, but we're
Yeah.
hoping to hopefully one day expand, or at least travel to other locations with sponsorships to be able to host them in other places. Foundry has been such a great support to our events and has provided like new candy licenses for our raffles, and even
Oh, that's
provided food
awesome.
and things like that. Yeah, so it's been really helpful, because initially when I started the group, I was funding it myself with my own finances. And I just really try to at least provide food and water so that people can come with, even if they're on a budget, at least come talk to people and not worry about having to purchase any food, and like stay hydrated along the way,
Sure.
to really make those connections and not like stress as much as they can. So having Foundry really help us out in that aspect has been such a huge lifesaver, and like I couldn't be more grateful for them. So that's like the biggest blessing right now, is just having sponsors that are just willing to help and like provide for the community as well. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's so cool. How did you hook up with the Foundry? Did you already know people over there through industry, or did they find you? How did that work?
A little bit of a connection, but also just having that kind of social media presence. My husband does work for Foundry, but also their
Oh, that probably
marketing team
helps.
had kind of, it does, it definitely does. They had noticed our kind of social media presence as well, and just noticing that we were doing these events. So we, had a little dinner, talked about our plans, and just connected with the right people, and just really created this beautiful partnership that has really helped us. We've also had other sponsors who have been able to kind of hop in and help in other aspects as well, to provide a little bit more. So, we'll have our certain that sponsors sponsoring certain portions, and then other sponsors helping with other things. So yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like the right time, the right place sort of
Yeah.
situation. And it's just been really great, really wonderful.
Well, I think you're being humble because the you know, one thing I've really found too, like as a kid, you see these movies and you start understanding, like you were saying, that oh, there's people behind these, but I kind of had a revelation that like this industry is us too. Like we're not really subject to it. We are the industry and we get to build it and keep it going, and it will only keep going if we have people that take the initiative and pull things together and try to kind of keep that spirit alive because it's very fragile. Like I don't think people realize how delicate and also small the VFX industry is. And it's been rocked in the past few years. It's been really, really rough. So I commend you for keeping it going, like putting in that effort. You make it sound very easy. It's not easy. I can tell you that right now. It is not easy to keep it going.
And I feel like you yourself too, like, thank you for also being there for the community. Even with this Discord, it's like, it's amazing to see the support system that everyone has for each other. And it's like, we got to cover all fronts. It's like the beautiful work you're doing too. Like, thank you as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Without all of these people just kind of pulling together and getting the community help in some way, it's like, it's truly so priceless. And everyone is just so appreciative to just know that there are folks out there who care about them and are
Yeah.
there for them in whatever way they can be. So
Yeah.
thank you as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we all love this, right? Like that's why we do it. That's why we put crazy hours in. We had to reschedule this because you had work on the weekend, and that's not unusual. I know that. Like it's just kind of part of the gig. We put in a lot of hours to make these images that go on the screen, and I don't. Maybe it's the iPhone, maybe it's like the streaming, maybe it's just the fact that media is everywhere nowadays. It feels kind of disposable, but man, it is. It takes a lot of work to make these movies and TV shows, and you're at Warner Brothers now, and can you talk a little bit about your projects? Or are you still NDA?
Still
Still
NDA, but
NDA.
very soon, hopefully very soon, I'll be able to talk a little bit more about it. But definitely, I feel like if anyone needs to talk about it, it's our amazing producer and amazing VFX supervisor, because they are killing it. They're doing amazing, and they are the best people to speak on it because they are leading the ship. And
Yeah.
I am but a humble, just, little support system for them.
Oh,
So,
see, there's the humbleness. No, we had some producers on a couple of episodes ago, and I was telling them, I was like, that's really been like the difference. I've been on some like really tough shows and really great shows, and usually the lynch, we can't really control what the subject matter is or what the script is. It's we're there to do the job, but really what determines if that is going to go well or bad is production. Production is the
yeah.
backbone of a good visual effects anything, like in that whole pipeline. And I don't think people understand that enough. So I was hoping that give me the 5 year old, like I'm Chat GPT. Explain to me like I'm five what what your job in production is, because I think it's so important people start understanding.
Yeah. I mean, so in the simplest form, everyone's like, what is even visual effects? Because you find a lot of people when you're working with them, they don't even understand what the concept of visual effects is or what it entails.
Yeah.
And this is the easiest and simplest way and it could be very subjective as well, but this is how I explain it to anyone that's not in the industry. It's like, what visual effects is it's quite literal, a visual effect, but it's anything that is added, removed, or enhanced after production, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're filming something, we may color correct something, that's considered visual effects. We may remove somebody's mole that they don't like, that's considered visual effects. Removal of stunt cables, things like that. It could be the smallest little detail, but it is a visual effect created in a computer. So it's like it's quite simple. You're filming something in production, you want to add, remove, or enhance something. That's where we come in and help out, right? And it could be that as small as that color correction, or as big as, like, the superhero movies with these crazy new worlds and superpowers and things like that. So it can be quite a range,
Yeah.
but we're just the guys that really help out and make things look a little bit better than
And the
maybe when they were
gals.
shot.
And
So,
the gals. There's a
and the gals, yes.
it used to be kind of a boys
Exactly.
club, but man, we've like it's been so nice to see a whole new perspective coming in like across the world. It's been wonderful.
Yes. And that's the thing too. It's like it's amazing to see the growth in ratio, because when I
Yeah.
started, the ratio was very different. And now there's so much more diversity. You see so many different backgrounds and all genders, and it's just so beautiful
Yeah.
because there have been so many times early in my career where I may have been the only woman in a group or in a meeting, and now it's like it's equal, or sometimes there's more women, and it's just so wonderful. It's great to have a
It is.
supportive, like, demographic, and just be not feel so lonely, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
And everyone seems to be so welcoming of each other too, which is really great.
Yeah, it's the nicest community. I mean, I started with my wife. We've had a really strange career where we've always worked at the same place until very recently. But I remember like early on, it was very much a boys club, and then she would be there in the room and would be having a completely different experience than I was. And it was like such a I felt so bad at the time because I was like I saw the struggles that she went through, and there was nothing, there's nothing. It was just how it was, and I hated it. And it's been so nice to see that just gradually change and improve. And now we have a global community full of all sorts of ethnicities, genders, identities. Like it's been it's a really rich community. It's been really wonderful to see that grow.
Yeah, I mean, there's always room for improvement too.
Yeah.
Even though there is a lot more diversity, there are still a few things that I think could still use some work. There are times where I may fall into a new project and immediately, I guess, not officially told, but there are mannerisms and things that are done that can give an impression. And sometimes I come into a project and immediately assumed to be dumb or bimbo in some way. And so a lot of things are explained to me in a very different way than like maybe my male counterpart, even though
Yeah,
my resume may show the same or, not a little bit more experience. It's like little things like that that, yes, there is improvement, but it would always be great to just be considered an equal to male counterparts.
yeah,
But, we will all get there at some point. It's just a matter of gentle teachings and things like
gentle
that.
teaching.
So,
Yeah, yeah. I my like I was mentioning, my wife and I we've had the exact same experience. So like I saw firsthand, like we had the exact same resume, the exact same credits, the exact same years, and my experience was very different than hers, and it sucks. I hate that. I hate that. I hated that about our industry. And we've been having a lot of conversations about like what do we want. We're in a rebuilding phase right now. At least that's really what it feels like. And there's I wish we didn't have to go through the pain we had to, but we have an opportunity to kind of improve things.
mhm.
What are some of the big things? You mentioned equality. What are some of the other issues that you think are kind of systemic that we can, in the coming years, really start focusing on and improving so it's a healthier industry as a whole for everybody?
I think, at least from right now, what I've been noticing a lot is ageism.
Mm,
And I mean it in the sense of not like discriminating, like don't hire someone because of a certain age, but like certain generations always attacking each other. Like there is something to learn from the younger generation, as is there for the older generations. We've all come from somewhere. We all have knowledge and experience in our own ways that I
yeah.
think we can always come together. I always hear sometimes older generations where they're like, "Well, back in my day, I did this," and it's like that's wonderful, that's great. I'm sorry that that experience was like that for you, but that doesn't mean it has to be for everyone else now.
Yeah.
Times have changed, things have changed, rules have changed, even technology has changed, and sometimes people can be very adamant about growth and change and like progressiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And that can hinder a team sometimes. It can be very isolating in the sense of like working under someone with that kind of mentality because you may have grown and advanced in certain ways and you're trying to show them that there are these advancements in technology that might be more helpful now, but they are pushing back and not wanting to learn. And so that can be a bit of a struggle.
Mm.
And then the other direction is, maybe there's always an attack about the younger youth and how they're very social media driven, but it's like if you really think about it, they're quite intelligent and very strategic with the way that they run social media. They've created these whole businesses and entrepreneurships, which is
Oh
really,
yeah.
really commendable, right? So it's like they're their own market now. They're their own brand, which I think is so respectable. And I wish I had that when I was younger. I probably would have done something totally different, but I'm not, like, I'm grateful for where I am, and like it couldn't have been more better for me.
Yeah.
But there's so many aspects in the way that they drive social media and the strategies and the trends that I think is very commendable because sometimes you can market that for even your own projects, like side hustle sometimes, or even technology. Like, hey, we can't do that visual effect situation here, but have you ever considered, I don't know, CapCut or whatever that they can maybe recommend? So it's like that nice balance of, hey, this older generation has a lot of experience and knows all this great stuff. Well, hey, the youth also understands and has a great aspect, like, I guess, perspective on this stuff. And it's like, we can all really learn from each other at the end of the day. And I don't think that attacking one or the other for whatever reason is helpful. I
Yeah.
think
Totally.
it's just a matter of listening to each other and learning from each other. And I think that would be really great.
Yeah. I love that. We saw like with all of the strikes, and we saw like a lot of those social media echo chambers. LinkedIn, Reddit was horrible. Don't ever go on Reddit. Don't ever go to the don't ever do it, because you'll never want to do this job ever. And we saw
Yes.
so many kids that are in college, and they're at these schools learning visual effects, and they would pop on there and they were like, should we even pursue this career? This sounds horrible. Like, is there ever going to be it's all going to be AI, so what's the point? And that like broke my heart. I was like, we're going to lose out on an entire new generation. The industry is going to wither and just kind of fade away because like we don't get the new people coming in and taking on the torch. And I hated that. So I hope we can kind of encourage people to keep doing this. And you know, I wanted to get your perspective too on, you know, you're in television, so you're probably aware there's also YouTube and streaming and a whole other thing on the side, right? That's very profitable for these new generations. I've seen like a lot of younger artists taking this time to start up their own YouTube channel and put on their own animation and you know, their little webatoons and stuff like that. We saw it with Has Been Hotel was started out as a small little thing, and now it's a huge show on Amazon. Same thing with Bluey. Bluey started out as a tiny little short. Oh man, Blue. We've had lots of conversations. Bluey hits hard. I love Bluey.
It's so hard, so deep, like really in the feels.
It really is, and we would have completely missed that if we weren't open to a new generation kind of taking these new tools and, you know, all their talent and putting them on a new platform. How do you see the future kind of unfolding? Do you see it more with these independently creator owned shows that are really creative and profitable, or where's the where's the studio system going? You know, like it's kind of a broad question, but like it just feels like there's a big shift happening right now, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's hard to say, right?
Yeah,
It's
we're in the
and
middle
the
of it.
thing, like, exactly. It's like to your point though, with the younger generations wanting to get into this industry, but there's a lot of this negativity and like almost discouragement,
Yeah.
which is fair. It's understandable. But I think what sometimes I find at least happens is, you know, maybe people have been burned in the industry over the course of however many years they've been doing it, and they become a little bit jaded, you know, a little tired of the mistreatment, which is very valid.
Yeah.
Nobody should ever be mistreated. And I think that with that, there's a mindset shift, right? From the early days when everybody's bright eyed and bushy tailed and eager and excited and like ambitious and just super, super passionate about it. Over the course of those years, they may lose that, right? That the light begins to dim, the flame might go out. And so, with everything going on, it's just that nail in the coffin. And so, this negativity might start to kind of flourish and unfortunately can be projected to folks who are in a different mindset, right?
Mm.
So, you know, for myself over the course of these years, if anything, I've grown more passionate about it, but that's not the case for everyone. And everyone's entitled to their feelings about everything and where we are right now. But like the way I would approach it with my mentees, you know, I try to speak to them as if I was still in that mindset myself, right? Like if I was that new student that is excited and like eager to learn and work in a television show because I was there.
Yeah.
You know, obviously it's different now because over the course of those years, you almost become desensitized to it because you've been doing it for so long. But when you're new, it's very different. You know, it's all new, it's all fresh. Oh my gosh, an actor, oh my gosh, a director. Whereas you start to see them as coworkers now, and it's a little different.
Yeah.
So it's like you almost have to put on that hat, right? Remember where you came from, remember when you started and how excited you were, and talk to them as if you were that person they were excited to speak to. Because a lot of these, like my mentees, when I first meet them, they're just excited to talk to anybody that has ever worked on anything.
Yeah.
And that is the most like, I don't know, it just makes me so happy and so excited for them to just see their little light, like their little eyes light up and just the sheer excitement. And it almost brings me back to that feeling of like, oh my gosh, like I'm excited for
Yeah.
you. And then you just have this beautiful conversation of something as simple as just explaining your job or explaining what a certain term means is everything to them, you know?
Yeah.
Speaking to the professionals and what software they're using and how things are and what it's like to work at a certain company or you got to meet a certain actor or go to a certain event, like they're just so excited about that and it's so refreshing and it breaks my heart to know that they might not have those conversations with other professionals in the field and it would be the complete opposite.
Mm.
But again, college is very expensive, of course, you know, there are other alternative routes, but I think it's worth talking to these students, these very excited individuals in a different perspective. And just you may say, hey, don't spend 100K on whatever college. Let's try this route instead, you know, like
Yeah.
maybe something else.
I went to SCAD, so I just recently paid up my student loans. It's a lot. And my professors were not that nice on the first ones. I remember my first VFX class. The professor sat us all down and said, "Look to your left. Now look to your right. One of those people will not get a job in this industry. So let's go." It was a very different way to start. Yeah. So I love that you're mentoring, but in a very supportive environment, getting them excited about the industry because it is we're making movies. Like that's the coolest thing, right? Like it's got to keep you kind of recharged too, kind of seeing them get so excited to get started, you know?
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like putting that hat on of, hey, remember when you were young and excited?
Yeah.
And then talking to them. But I find myself like, as we professionals work in this industry for so long, that sometimes you just need a little something to kind of give you a little pep in your step, right?
Yeah.
I go to the movies every single weekend. That is like my hobby. I try to go to the movies every weekend. I have my AMC Stubs A-list membership, which is like you get to watch the 3 movies every week
Oh,
at an
sweet.
AMC. I use that
Oh, let's go.
religiously.
All right. All right. Perfect. Favorite movie you've seen recently?
Okay, let me think
I
about.
know it's a big question.
No, no, no.
It's
I
probably
got
the
it.
biggest one of the whole night.
Deadpool. It was that opening scene. I'm not going to spill any, spoilers here, but that opening scene, amazing.
It's pretty great. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, I love seeing the previs too of that. Have you seen like they've been it's so wonderful. I love that like we get to see all those behind the scenes things. When I started out, we never got to. It was I think it was Cinefx magazine or that's about it. Like that was that was all you got. You know, they're almost spoiled with how much you get to see nowadays, you know?
Yeah, it's like a magician, and you're looking behind the curtain, like, how do they do it? A
Yeah.
little taste of it. It's great.
All right. How about movie you're looking forward to that you haven't gotten to see yet? Like I'm personally really
Um,
excited about the new Alien movie. I don't know if you're into horror movies. I'm very excited. I don't know. What about
yes,
you?
I haven't seen it yet. Apparently, it came out this weekend. I
Yeah.
completely failed on booking that, but that one I am very excited about. I love the Alien franchise. It's just so great. Like very, very exciting.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like when you're so excited to watch something, you almost have to avoid social media at all costs, or you're going to get everything spoiled.
Oh yeah.
So
It's
it's like,
horrible. Yeah.
yeah, super cautious. But from what I've heard, it's great. And haven't had any spoilers, thankfully,
Yeah.
but very excited, especially with the way that they approach the practical effects with the visual effects, just trying to see kind of that balance between CG and practical that I'm really excited to see.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I want to see
Yeah.
where they go with this.
Yeah. We're at this point where we have all these tools, right? Like the 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 glimmer of CG is kind of faded a bit. Like it for us who have been in it long enough, like I remember being a kid in 1993 was this massive shift between old school visual effects and digital, and it's almost like we're going through that exact same thing now with
Mhm.
AI coming online. Are you excited for what's going to come? Are you hesitant? Like what's your vibe with all of this?
With the AI
Yeah, the
aspect,
rapid tech development, because they're new tools. They can do amazing things, and I think they are tools. But there's been a lot of fear in the community about displacing artists. What is this going to mean for the future of visual? Is it going to mean less? Is it going to be more? How do you feel about everything?
I mean, my personal feelings, and this is just a representation of me and my own personal feelings
Hmm.
about it, I feel that ethical AI is great. Never stealing people's work. If they would like to contribute to it and they sign those rights off, great. But
Yeah,
I feel like there's a way to do it ethically where you're not taking anyone's work and like mashing something up to be something different.
yeah,
That's where I'm not very fond of it, is because all of these artists that, or photographers or any kind of art, they have mastered this humanness to their skill set, and to have that stolen and creating something new, that's where I don't like it. But
yeah.
sorry, I have like a little speck in my throat. When it comes to tools, yes, I agree. I think it's really great that there are tools, like especially in visual effects. We have things like paint outs that can
Oh
cost,
yeah,
it costs money, take time, wig fixes, things like that. I feel like when it comes to tools, it's great because then you could take the tedious aspect of the visual effects that people may or may not want to do,
Sure.
have the AI do it, right? And then just have the artists focus on the really cool stuff, the more humanness aspect of it that takes that human creativity.
Yeah.
There are some really great tools out there that I think are really handy in visual effects that would
Foundry
be
have
great.
quite a few. I'm doing. I don't mean to plug the Foundry, but I'm doing a course for FX PhD right now, and there's been a heavy focus in the last chapter on the cattery, and I don't think people realize that the Foundry's been putting out these machine learning tools for a while that, well before generative AI was really starting to be a thing, and they're super powerful. They're like replacing garbage mats. I don't want to make a garbage mat. Just let it do its thing. Do in painting. I mean, like clean plating is getting so much easier. All of those things. It's and the Foundry's been leading the way for a while.
Yeah, yeah, they're really innovative. And that's what
They
I
are,
really
yeah,
appreciate about them too. It's like using those tools to do the stuff that nobody really cares to do. And respectfully, nobody cares to do in the sense of this is kind of like the grunt work, right? It's like if we can get a tool that can do this stuff quickly and efficiently and cost effective, everyone's happy.
yeah,
But then this other stuff, like the creative parts of it, like let's have these effects do this cool stuff. Then there's artists in there making sure that it looks great and they have that eye to really finesse it. That's the stuff we want to focus on, right? And there may or may not be tools to help us and assist with that to make things a little bit easier for them as well. I don't like the idea of replacing artists, and I
yeah,
could only hope that we don't ever get to that point. And if anything, maybe new jobs are created and new kinds of creativity can be created.
yeah. That's what I hope so too.
Yeah, just never stealing people's work and never replacing people's art creativity that they've worked so hard to do. And I almost feel that way a little bit about the 2D animation too, where it's like you rarely see it. And
Yeah,
if you do, it's usually storyboarding in a way. But yeah, it's like one of those crafts that I've seen just kind of disappear that I'm very sad about. But when you do get to see it in other parts, it's like, oh, it's so super exciting. Like, oh, I haven't seen this in so long.
yeah. We get so excited about like the new tools. It's been strange though because like we're like you're talking about like stealing artists' work, and it's been this AI has pretty much come from Silicon Valley, and it's come to Hollywood, and it's almost like these two competing ideologies. I don't know if you saw that Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, he had a interview. Where was he at? He was, let's see if I can find it. He did a big a university talk, but he had a quote here that was like striking to me, and it was basically saying if he was running a company, he wouldn't really care if you were stealing people's work, because if you get large enough, you can just lawyer up and let the lawyers clean it up. And it was almost like that. I can't think of a more antithetic response to what Hollywood and the artists really are trying to do than that right there. Just yeah, we'll steal it and then we'll figure it out later down the road. That seems so destructive, and I think we're starting to feel the start of that effect. And I don't know what do you think about that? I'm gonna throw a bomb. See what you think about
Stealing people's art is never okay. You even see this with
that.
clothing companies too, where they'll just take artists' work and just take it as their own and just start selling it. I don't know how they deal with that legally, but you'll hear about it in music as well. It's like theft has been a thing, but it shouldn't be. And it's like one of those things where you have to just fight for your copyrights, trademark as much as you can. I've
Yeah,
seen some success, at least on LinkedIn, where there was this artist that was a photographer and they created this beautiful photography and somebody took it, changed it up a little bit and made it their own, but it was very obvious who the photographer was. And they went through at it legally and the photographer won. But
yeah,
there's always these like gray areas with how much you can alter an image before you can claim it as something new. And it's this very gray area. But the thing that I feel about AI, obviously it's this new thing, even though it's been around for a bit, but it's this new thing. And I feel like people are afraid of things that are new because
mm,
it's scary. It's like starting school. It's like, I hate school because it's scary. You're going to not like something that you don't understand. And it's not to say that people don't. I think it's just trying to keep an open mind that maybe it's not so bad. Technology is great. Obviously we had cars, back in the day we didn't have them. And it's like, if you can really embrace advancements that are for the greater good, we could use AI in medical, environments that could save lives. It's
yeah.
it's those things where it's like, if you open your mind a little bit and just maybe learn about it, maybe, educate yourself in a way that might make you feel a little less afraid or a little less angry about it, again, everyone's feelings are very valid and understandable, and it's okay to be afraid and it's okay to be angry about it right now. But who knows, maybe one day we can all have these like legalities in place where everyone can feel safe and comfortable and okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, even with actors as well, understandable that they don't want their likeness stolen for whatever reason, you know. We have been doing digi doubles for ages. You know,
Yeah.
it's nothing new. It's not a new concept. And naturally, when we do digi doubles now, we do scans, it's understandable that actors are weary of it because they don't know where that's going.
Yeah.
But realistically, we're just using it to put them in safe environments in a digital world so they don't actually have to hurt themselves, right? So it's like little things like that where it's like we understand it from a visual effects perspective because we've been doing it for ages and it's nothing new to us. But for actors who maybe were doing it in a different time where AI wasn't as big of a like taboo word, now it's a little bit different and agents are getting involved. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky, even though the digi double scan aspect of it has existed for a very long time.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to find a fine line of it's new, but it might be okay. It's okay to be afraid, but we just don't know where it's going to go until we keep going.
And talk about it too, right? Like, I think the worst thing is if people get so scared that they just, put their head in the sand and just like pretend that it's not there, and then let the Silicon Valley just run wild and just take everybody's work, and then it's going to be lesser for it. You're not going to have that human element that really is what makes movie magic. Like, it's not the computer, it's the people behind it. Where would we be if I mean, we Jurassic Park, like those advancements that were there, it was all done on the computer, but like my goodness, if it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't for the actual people behind there having the foresight to say we can take these tools to make this amazing thing, I wouldn't be in this industry if that didn't happen, It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it's just, advancements in technology are going to happen. They're always going to be there. You know, even just with the drones themselves, when they first came out, it was like this magical thing. It was like, what? Like, that's crazy. Obviously, there had to be laws in place to prevent them from flying in certain places, but it's like one of those things where it's like, what the heck is this? Or some people are excited. Some people are like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
But we kind of evolve with it. Laws will be in place. People will talk about it, the pros and cons. It's the same with anything else that's new. I always, one of my favorite films of all time is iRobot.
Oh,
And
sure. Yeah.
everyone's like, we don't want that to happen. It's like, it's a possibility, but it could also not happen. It's like having that kind of perspective where it's like catastrophizing, like they're going to steal our jobs and they're going to be like this. That could be a possibility, but it could also not be a possibility. Maybe
Yeah.
it won't replace you. Maybe it'll be a tool to help make your job easier so you could do all these other cool things.
Yeah.
It could go either way, but we just have to understand that there's also a different perspective to it. And I just feel like everybody's feelings are valid and very understandably so because their livelihoods could be in jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
You focus on a craft your whole life, and when you feel like it's being jeopardized, of course you're going to be scared and afraid and be against it. And that's completely okay,
Yeah.
but we have to find a way to support everybody in some way and understand that unfortunately this technology's advancements, it exists now, so people are going to do with them as they wish. All we can try to do is protect ourselves and each other as much as we can.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you feel about the call for VFX unions? This has been a thing for I've heard about it since I started out, like the call for unionizing. And I think we're starting to finally pick up steam. We're seeing the Marvel VFX houses are unionizing, the Disney VFX houses are using. Obviously they're connected, but we're starting to actually see it pick up steam. Do you think unions are going to be a vehicle for getting that voice out to protect ourselves? How do you see them playing out?
I mean, when it comes to unionizing, I feel like personally, I'm not educated enough to really, really form an opinion about it. I feel like if unionizing is going to benefit, great, go for it. A lot of people, from what I've understood at like some of the networking events and just speaking to some of the people in the industry, there are fears about that as well because
Yeah.
they feel like, well, if we unionize, then we won't get hired, or maybe they'll move the work elsewhere. So it's this weird complex thing. Like I actually personally haven't quite decided what I feel about it because I'm not, again, educated enough to be able to like really form an opinion. Um, there are other parts of filmmaking that have unions and they've been fine. So we might just be okay too.
Yeah.
But I really just need to like sit down with Mark Patch and like really, really understand this to the T, because there are aspects of it that I'm not familiar with as far as like actually unionizing, and also in the production side, it's different because at a VFX house, you're at that company, right? It's like,
Yeah.
we'll just use like some random VFX name, like, oh, let's say, I don't know, Fan VFX. We'll just create some random name. Fan VFX would have their company already established. They've been doing this for X amount of years. So all of their team and their VFX people are within that company and within that office.
Yeah.
Whereas on the production side, typically we're hired on as this like subcategory to a production company, right? So and we're freelancers. So we may be hired by a production company under this little umbrella as our own little entity, a small little VFX team. We may or may not even be at that production hub, like let's say Paramount or something. We might not actually work at the Paramount lot. We might work at a different production office, because there's just so much coming in and out that sometimes space is limited. So they have to put us in different places. And because of that, we're disconnected from other visual effects teams and we don't really get to converse, right? Or talk about it. Whereas VFX houses, you're all in the same place. You can all talk about it and really form that kind of like camaraderie.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's a little more isolating, and that's where it gets a little bit complicated. At Marvel Studios, Disney, there's this big lot, and everyone's pretty much there, so you can kind of talk amongst each other and try to find ways to strategize. It's a little tough. It's hard to really speak on it.
Yeah.
But I'm all about people getting paid what they deserve and working reasonable hours. You hear of some productions where people are driving super tired and get in accidents and lose their life. So anything to protect people, protect artists, protect the filmmakers and just their livelihoods, I'm all about that. Whatever way we can do it.
It's that work-life balance I think we're all feeling after COVID, and the remote work gave us a lot of new possibilities, but like we do miss that. I don't know, I personally really miss that studio environment, but I really love the freedom of remote freelancing, and I know a lot of artists do as well. Do you see the future of VFX having room for both that hybrid workflow of in studio and also remote teams kind of working together?
I think so.
Yeah.
One of the benefits that I've found really is the pool is a lot bigger when you open it up to work from home.
It's a global pool. Yeah, a lot of people.
Yes.
It's pretty massive. Yeah.
And so that means exactly, it's like you have more candidates to look at, more skill sets, more seniority levels, or whatever kind of individual you're trying to find. Your pool gets bigger, which is great. You can work with different time zones if needed, depending on where the production is. I think work from home is amazing and I'm all for it. As an introvert, I love it because it keeps me a little bit charged, in the way of like social batteries can get drained.
Sure.
But then it can be really isolating where you're like, I kind of miss socializing with people.
Yeah.
And you almost start to get like this really I don't even know what to call it, just loneliness. And you just miss people and talking to people and just making friends at work. So there's that weird balance where it's like, I want to stay at home, but I also want to talk to people.
Do you think that's where your activism with like mentoring and starting that? Are you fueling that battery by keeping that going?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's more my whole feeling and why I mentor is because when I started, when I was, trying to get into my journey and really, really find my way, I did not have anybody. I have a relative that is in the industry, but we're very separate people. I've never asked them for help. I've never like leaned on them to help me. I wanted to do it myself. They have their journey, I have mine. And I wanted to kind of prove to myself that I can do it by myself and do it on my own. And so with that, I didn't have anyone to lean on or anyone to guide me. I was like figuring stuff out, made a lot of mistakes that I shouldn't have. And I'm like, I don't want anybody to go through the things that I've been through. So I'm going to take students, take them under my wing, try to teach them the things that I've learned so that they don't have to make the same mistakes or have a more difficult life than, how I did.
Yeah.
So that's where my mentorship kind of comes in, is just trying to make sure people are set up better than I was so that their life doesn't have to be as difficult, and learning a lot more. I can only hope that my mentees become my boss one day. That's my goal.
That's the hope, right? Yeah. No, I think it's
That is the hope.
I think it's amazing. I grew up in Indiana, so I was very far removed from Hollywood. I had no idea how to get from A to B. I had some really good mentors just out of college that I was lucky enough to. They took me under their wing and showed me the ways, and then uh, here I am now. So it's entirely just because of that mentor aspect. Do you find like your mentees? Is that the appropriate term, mentees?
If there's multiple, yeah,
It sounds like a
mentees.
candy, mentee. So, so your mentees, do they have like, when they start out the process, when they come on and they're getting into it? Are you finding common questions about starting out? Are there some similarities that you see happening each time?
Yes.
Yeah.
The common questions are, how do I get into the industry? How do I break in? The biggest question, of course, number one, and how do I find jobs, right? And so that's where it's tricky. And again, it's like the whole it's all about who you know situation, the
Yeah.
networking aspect of it, which is why we have our networking events. It's like if you're in LA, come join us. You can meet people, connect, have brunch, talk about the next project, whatever. Mentees, I know when I started, I had no idea how to get a job. I happened to get lucky with a job posting, but nowadays it seems like that's almost impossible because there's so many people applying, but also I never know where my application is going and if it even went through or if anyone's looking at it.
Yeah. No clue,
So
right?
yeah, so it's like one of those weird balancing acts. And on the production side, it's a little bit different because it's like you have people that maybe you already have in mind for for like the shows, so you contact them and you fill your team that way. Vendor side, they have their recruitment and they reach out. You know, they may have job postings and they have someone, I guess, in a way, in charge of hiring people. But how to break in and how to find jobs has been the most common question, and it has been tough because there's no like VFX job hunting, job finding 101 manual that you can really find.
No, and there's so many different boards out there too. There's different. I mean, there's so many places to look nowadays. I remember my first job actually came from the VFX Talk forums, like because there was a central hub, and it was a Canadian job that it was a dinosaur movie. So as a Jurassic Park nerd, I was like, oh yay! So I went to Canada for a while, and I don't know where I would be if there wasn't for somebody posting on a job board. But it was completely. I knew, I had been talking to the person, so we kind of became loose friends, and then like, oh hey, here's a gig. It seems to be like it's fun to hire friends, like so that's been my experience. Is that kind of how you're seeing things as well? You kind of have a core network that you keep going back to, and then they refer, and then pool gets bigger and bigger as you go.
Yes, definitely. I find that making friends has been a huge part of like me just being fortunate enough to have had opportunities all this time because somebody might be like, oh, like I mean, maybe they're on their own show and they're like, oh, we need a coordinator. I heard Esmeralda's available. Like, oh yeah, let's get her. Like she's great. And then maybe we'll like interview and I might be brought on or may not. I might not be the right fit. It's always been very much connection based. In the beginning when I started, it was very different. The market was different. The way to find jobs was different. Whereas now it's like it's still kind of complicated, but there's almost a little bit more structure to it, and you
Yeah.
kind of understand how to kind of get a job. But it also depends what kind of opportunity are you looking for: film, episodic, commercial, vendor, client side. And I just find that client side, there's no job postings because we're constantly turning around freelancers all the time. And so it's like there's no way to keep up with like a company's website. And
Yeah.
that's where we're like, I might hop onto like, I don't know, like a Warner Brothers show and I might be the producer and I'm like, okay, well, I need to fill my team. I may already have people in mind for every single position that I'm looking for. So I'll reach out to them first.
Yeah.
If they're available, great. If not, then that's where I might do outreach on like LinkedIn or something like that. And that's usually how it tends to be, which is why I always recommend like if you're in production or you're an artist looking to work as an in-house artist, reach out to supervisors and VFX producers because those are the ones that tend to be filling the teams, maybe production managers as well, and really just make those connections or just follow them on LinkedIn so that if they're looking for someone, they'll likely post and have an email that you can send your resume to. So then at least you know it's going to a human
Yeah,
and not
for
some
sure.
like database.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember actually sending thank you notes and little gift baskets. I put way too much money and time into never heard anything, but it felt like a nice human gesture to do, back in the day. But I remember when I actually worked for Warner Brothers for Space Jam, it was entirely just because I had worked with a supervisor at Real Effects on Book of Life that then was at Warner Brothers and saying like, "Hey, we need a new compositor." I last minute, "Hey, are you free?" And it was on LinkedIn and then came on to the show. It was very very non-official. It was almost like completely word of mouth, and that just kind of is how it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I know people are like, LinkedIn's the worst because their job like section, like the job board section is not the best. But
Yeah.
to be honest, I haven't used the job board section. I've been using it in that like strategic way of adding VFX producers and production managers and supervisors and just keeping an eye out for posts, if not refining my search so that I can find those kinds of posts. But also, it's like I always encourage people that when you do reach out, remember that those people are human and people,
They're
because
not
a lot of
AI.
times
It's
they
actual
are not
people.
AI. Exactly. And I mean this respectfully. I've received messages sometimes where it's like, hey, hire me. And I'm like, do you even care about me as
Yeah.
a person?
Yeah,
Like,
they're like,
are you going to
"Hello."
ask how I am? Yeah, it's like, it's just the simplest little thing like, hey, how are you? Even if it's just that, just something to make me not feel like I'm just this, I don't know, I guess, person that just gives jobs in a way.
Yeah.
Like, it's those little things that just make you feel like people aren't just out to take advantage of you, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And just approaching people with that humanness as if you were to talk to just somebody in the industry and you want to actually get to know them as opposed to take something from them, right? That's the difference with reaching out to people, because you'll see people cold emailing and messaging with that just straight to the point, which I love transparency, but there's a way to approach it. I think that will make somebody feel less taken advantage of.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought one of the better pieces of advice, we talked to a recruiter named Marcus Wells down in Australia because it's a global industry. And he had such a
Mm-hmm.
good, it was the question from the community, like, how do I not make my resume like fall to the bottom of the stack? Like, how can I actually get somebody to look at it? Because it feels like it never happens for a lot of people. And he was like, don't just send your resume. Find them on LinkedIn. Put a personal connection to it. Like reach out and just say like, hey, would love to, chat sometime. Would you be open to it? Really trying to build that human connection. And he's like, and we've actually had members saying that like ever since that's actually started to help, even with like, practically no jobs to be given. That little human touch really does seem to be kind of making the difference in a few situations, which I hope becomes more prevalent. I hope those jobs start really starting to flow more and more.
Yeah, definitely. And it's nice when somebody's like, hey, I would like to have coffee or a virtual meeting of some sort, because then it's like, oh, we can both get to know each other. And that is just cherry on top.
Yeah, that's the best. How do you feel? We're getting towards the end of. Thank you again very much for having this conversation with me today. I really appreciate it. I'm really curious how the strikes are over. Seems like the animation guild might be striking. I'm hoping not. Um, how do you see the rest of the year going? Is the survive till 25? Is that kind of the vibe going around? What is your gut personal feeling as somebody in the industry?
From observation, just from the grapevine and what I'm looking at and the production weeklies, it seems like, and from what I've heard, it seems like a lot of productions were waiting to see how this looming strike situation went before
Yeah.
they gave the green light. And so, because of that, and things are looking great, things are starting to pick back up. But because of that, whether a company has stopped down or they're just starting up production, that takes time to even start up on its own, right? You got to hire people, you got to get
Yeah.
them to locations, get permits, all this whole process to do that. It takes about a month or two, depending
For
on
sure.
whatever kind of production you're looking for. So that alone takes us to like December, right? And it seems like even the winter period always from the get-go has been kind of that lull time. So that's already kind of a little bit of a hit in
No,
a way.
this time of year, most people don't realize nobody's usually hiring in visual effects. It's usually completely dead because everybody's working, so nobody's hiring yet. It seems to be like post
Exactly.
Labor Day is when everything started. You'd start seeing things happen. That's,
Yeah, plus the holidays, people want to spend time with their families and you have winter breaks and things like that. So it's like
yeah,
this time tends to be a little bit of that kind of limbo time. And then once spring comes around, that's when you start to see things kind of picking up. And then, of course, the summertime, which is like the thriving time. But people are saying, rumor has it, that possibly, hopefully, early 2025. And it's very, I know it's very gray, but the thing is, too, it's like, we started, I guess, in an unofficial like agency where we're collecting resumes for our database and just kind of having companies reach out, and we get people with whatever criteria they're looking for and give those resumes to them, and then they contact those people.
yeah,
I have had a few studios reaching out, which is very promising. And so, although it's not probably at the speed that we want it to, there is a little bit of an uptick. So there is something to look forward to.
yeah,
It just might take a little bit longer than we expected. Same as last time too, where we were like, took a little longer.
yeah. It's never fast enough, right? Especially when you've been out of work for a year for a lot of people. It seems to be like we've been telling our members a lot of just like right now, it's nobody we're creative people. We can't just sit around and not do something. Now is the time to redo that reel, redo that website, make some connections, start putting getting all the pieces together, learning about these new technologies because I don't think movies are going away. I don't think that's a controversial statement. I think people need entertainment. I during COVID, I think we started seeing no new movies coming out for a while, and then I think it was Bill and Ted. It was the Bill and Ted sequel that came out, and my kids were so excited to go see Bill and Ted in the living room. We had popcorn, and I was like, this really is like it's a human thing. We need stories, we need entertainment. I don't think that's going away, even with new tech coming in and displacing or adding or changing things. It's universally people need movies, people need entertainment. So now's the time to get ready because it's gonna get busy again. It's just we gotta get we gotta get past all of this stuff.
Yeah, we're in that like warm up stage before the big run, right? It's
Yeah,
like
stretch.
stretching,
Yeah,
kind of little walking before we start running for sure.
it's a big deal. Well, to wrap it up real quick, I would love it. Do you have any tips, especially with all your meetups, of how to keep motivated? Because you seem like a very motivated person. You're staying active, you're staying in the know with everything, and I know a lot of artists can feel just kind of depressed and not motivated to learn new stuff. How do you keep your energy up? How do you keep passion about movies?
Watching movies. I know it seems super cliche, but it's like I get re-inspired when I watch movies. That's which is why I go every single weekend, because I just love the feeling of leaving a movie theater and being like, wow, that was so much
Yeah,
fun.
it's a
Or
special
wow, that was so
experience.
terrible, I guess, depending on what you're watching. But it's just it's such a beautiful feeling, and it's something that has just never gone away. That's initially what started my whole passion, was that 5 years old Star Wars A New Hope. That feeling that I felt when I watched it, and I felt so inspired and like just want to take on the world and just like
Yeah,
be really awesome at something. I still get that every time I go to the movie theaters and watch a movie that I just like absolutely love. And I think it's so important to have escapism in whatever way that is, whether it's drawing, listening to music, exercising, which I highly recommend. Endorphins are great.
it's a huge deal.
Um,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
yeah, obviously if you're able to, if you can just go outside and take a walk or just go out in nature in some
Yeah,
way and
sunshine.
trying to,
Sunshine's a big deal.
yeah, yeah, just some sort of escapism in a healthy way that will help you with your mental health, because it's just that's the thing that's the most difficult thing to really go through, is the mental hit that you can feel when you're in a tough situation. And again, this is why our events are try to have them on a monthly basis, so that at least once a month there's something to look forward to go see people, have fun, let loose, and you can leave feeling maybe re-inspired or having friends to kind of talk to afterwards. Something,
Yeah,
whatever it is, just find something to make you feel better, in a healthy way.
That's
talk to
amazing.
people, talk to friends.
That's amazing. Well, if people would like to talk to you and all the things that you're doing, where can they find out more about these events, all the things that you're doing? Where can we send them?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I have
LinkedIn.
my own personal page. Yes. And then I also have our organization page, which is like the company page itself. We post all of our events on our private LinkedIn group. That's where it's like all LA locals or anyone willing to travel to LA. We post our information there to try to keep, everyone's privacy a little bit more close to the chest, because
Sure.
we have had press trying to find us, and we're trying to really protect our people and have their safe haven to not deal with any of that. So that's why we kind of keep it a little more enclosed. But our company page is where we share resources and anything to help the community. And then my main page is just like inspirational quotes and experiences that hopefully can help inspire other people.
Hopefully movie reviews. Let's get some movie reviews on them next. That would be great, right?
I do them. I don't know if anyone's heard, but there's this really great app called Letterbox where you can like write your little star
Oh, I've never heard of
rating and give
this.
like a little review. It's so great. My friend Vince actually got me into it on he started posting them on his Instagram stories. So he'll be like, this is my star rating and this is what I feel about it. And so it's really, really awesome if you want to just start up a little reviewing, I
Oh,
don't
that's
know,
so cool.
hobby.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
highly
great.
recommend it.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time on a Sunday of all times. I hope I didn't take up too much of your day. I hope you get to do some fun stuff. And just thank you so much for all the stuff you're doing for the community, all the things you're doing behind the scenes. I can't wait to see what you're doing at Warner Brothers. I know it's going to be amazing.
Soon,
Soon,
soon.
soon, soon. And just heartfelt thank you so much. I think production, like I was saying, is such an important part of this industry that doesn't get the spotlight shined on it like it should. So keep going, keep doing awesome, and yeah, thank you again.
And thank you for all your help as well with the community. And I just want to let all of the artists and everyone involved in the filmmaking process that we see you, we hear you, and you're so valuable in this industry. And I hope that you know that, and we'll do our best to always make sure that you are aware of that and let everyone know that you're a very important part of this process. So
Well,
thank you
very,
so much
very
for all
true.
your help.
Very true. All right, I will let you go. Thank you again. It was wonderful talking with you. We should do it again. Yeah, we should
Yeah,
check in. Yeah.
totally.
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you for your time and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye bye.